bell in the hollow rings itself at midnight, has done since the flood of 1809, when the bell ringer's family went under, and the water rose past the steeple line. Nobody touches the rope in the tower. The rope hangs coiled and still, but every midnight the bell in the hollow rings out across the hill. Dead bell hollow, dead bell ring, ringing for the ones who couldn't swim. Dead bell hollow, count the toll, one ring for every borrowed soul. Dead bell hollow, listen close, the bell remembers every ghost. It counts them out in the midnight air. Dead bell hollow, we're all there. The parish priest tried to silence the bell, cut the clapper out in the fall, but the bell rang louder than it had before. Without the clapper there at all, he packed his cassock and he left by dawn. Said the hollow was older than God. The new priest never spoke about the bell, and we never thought it odd. Dead bell hollow, dead bell ring, ringing for the ones who couldn't swim. Dead bell hollow, count the toll, one ring for every borrowed soul. Dead bell hollow, listen close, the bell remembers every ghost. It counts them out in the midnight air. Dead bell hollow, we're all there. My grandmother was born the year of the flood. She said she always slept right through. Said the bell was just the hollow breathing. Said she was family of the drowned too. I lie awake and count the rings at midnight, try to put a name to each. 12 rings in the hollow every midnight, for the ones who stayed just out of reach. Bindweed grows up everything you build. It doesn't ask permission for the climb. It wraps around the fence post and the mailbox, and it does it every time. You think you've pulled it out and then it's back with twice the roots than before. The bindweed is the only plant I know that loves you to the core. Bindweed lover, bindweed vine, I wrap myself around everything of thine. Bindweed love is the love that stays, even when you pull and cut and raise. Bindweed lover, bindweed, oh, you'll find me in the roots when you grow old. I'm underneath whatever life you build. Bindweed lover, I am filled. You tried to leave me twice and came back twice with the bindweed on your hands. I told you what I was before the start. I told you all my plans. I said I'm not the love that lets you go. I said I'm not the gentle kind. You laughed and said you didn't mind bindweed. You were wrong, and that's fine. Bindweed lover, bindweed vine, I wrap myself around everything of thine. Bindweed love is the love that stays, even when you pull and cut and raise. Bindweed lover, bindweed, hold, you'll find me in the roots when you grow old. I'm underneath whatever life you build. Bindweed lover, I am filled. You're gone now to another county, another garden, another fence. I hope you find a tame and gentle love. I hope it makes some sense. But in 10 years when you clear the bindweed growing up your new back wall, you'll put your hand in the green of it and know I was never gone at all.
Duskweed grows at the edge of every road that nobody uses no more. It's the first thing that comes back when people leave, and the last thing to show at the door. I've been driving roads the duskweed's taken back for 20 years, it seems, following the roads that maps don't carry, following other people's dreams. Duskweed road, duskweed light, duskweed's all that's left at the end of the night. Duskweed follows everything that ends. Duskweed grows where the broken fence bends. Duskweed road, duskweed song, duskweed is where the living don't belong. I'll drive till the road is swallowed whole. Duskweed road is good for my soul. I stopped at a diner outside of nowhere. The woman behind the counter knew. She poured my coffee without me asking, the way tired people do for tired people who. She didn't ask me where I was going, she just refilled and looked away. Some kindness doesn't need a word around it. Some kindness just lets you stay. Duskweed road, duskweed light, duskweed's all that's left at the end of the night. Duskweed follows everything that ends. Duskweed grows where the broken fence bends. Duskweed road, duskweed song, duskweed is where the living don't belong. I'll drive till the road is swallowed whole. Duskweed road is good for my soul. I'll go back eventually, I suppose, back to whatever I called home, but not until the duskweed calls me back. Not until I've been alone long enough to feel the hollow that I carry, long enough to put a name to it, long enough to know if what I left behind is worth returning to or quit.
I speak to the ash tree every morning, my lips at the root where it splits. I tell it the names of my dead in order, the names and the dates and the bits. The ash tree has listened for 30 years, its roots have grown around my voice. The forest keeps its own kind of record. The forest doesn't ask you to rejoice. Ashroot prayer, ashroot name, ashroot holds what I cannot claim. Speak into the roots, speak into the woods, speak everything I could and couldn't and should. ashroot prayer, ashroot vow. The ash tree is the only altar now. I'll kneel in the mud with my forehead down, ashroot prayer in the root brown ground. There was a woman before me at this tree. I found her initials cut deep in the bark. She came before the wars, before the roads, before the village lost its dark. I wonder what she whispered in the wood, what bed she named in the rain. The ash tree holds her prayers and mine together. The tree doesn't separate our pain. Ashroot prayer, ashroot name, ashroot holds what I cannot claim. Speak into the root, speak into the wood, speak everything I could and couldn't and should. Ashroot prayer, ashroot vow. The ash tree is the only altar now. I'll kneel in the mud with my forehead down, ashroot prayer in the root brown ground. The council says the ash tree has to come down. Disease in the bark, so they say. I've been sitting at its roots 3 days straight. I don't think I'm moving away. Let them come with their saws and their helmets on. Let them take what the tree is above. They cannot cut out the 30 years of whispers. They cannot cut out the names of my love.
Mudcrow sits on the old levee fence and watches the water go by. He's been there every morning for 30 years, at least that long by my eye. My father called it a bad omen bird, said it shows up when someone will drown. He said the mudcrow watched the levee break in '65 and watched the whole Third War go down. Mudcrow ballad, mudcrow eye, watching everything before it dies. Mudcrow perched on the sorrow fence, watching since before it all made sense. Mudcrow ballad, mudcrow wing, black against the sun, announcing everything. It never cries and it never calls, it just watches from the levee wall. I've seen it on the morning a child was lost. I've seen it the day the mill closed down. I've seen it sitting on my own front gate the morning I nearly left this town. I walked out to it with my packed up bags. It looked at me and didn't move. I put my bags back in the hall that day. I don't know what I had to prove. Mudcrow, ballad, mudcrow, watching everything before it dies. Mudcrow perched on the sorrow fence, watching since before it all made sense. Mudcrow, ballad, mudcrow, wing black against the sun, announcing everything. It never cries and it never calls, it just watches from the levee wall. Last spring I found the mudcrow on the ground beneath the levee fence at dawn, lying still with its wings spread perfect wide, like it knew how to be gone. I buried it beside the water's edge. I marked the spot with a piece of white stone. Since then the levee's been quiet in the mornings, and I've been more alone. Holds its breath in January, as if it's waiting for a name. I walk the old paths every winter morning, and I always feel I came a little later than I was expected, a little wrong in my step, as if the forest counted on my presence, and the forest doesn't forget. Coldlung forest, breathe on me. Coldlung forest, set me free. Let me walk your oldest paths at night. Let me lose myself in right. Coldlung forest, hold my name. Coldlung forest, I'm the same as the ones who walked before my time. Coldlung forest, I am thine. There's a clearing at the center of the forest where the old trees make a ring. Last February something stood inside it. I don't know what it was being. I watched it from the tree line in the darkness for a long and frozen hour. It didn't move and neither did I after. That is the nature of that kind of power. Coldlung forest, breathe on me. Coldlung forest, set me free. Let me walk your oldest paths at night. Let me lose myself in right. Coldlung forest, hold my name. Coldlung forest, I'm the same as the ones who walked before my time. Coldlung forest, I am thine. I came back to the clearing in the springtime. The ring of trees was just trees again. The grass inside was slightly darker where it stood. I couldn't say why or when. I lay down in the center of the ring and looked up at the greening sky. The forest breathed out slow above my face, and that was me, and that was why.
Foreman told us God was on our side, while the mine paid him the rest. We shoveled out the coal in the dark all day, with the black dust in our chest. My daddy coughed his lungs up at 52. My brother lost 3 fingers to the saw. The company sent flowers to the funeral. That's the only grace I saw. Gravel sermon, gravel word, gospel of the working man unheard. Gravel in my lungs and gravel in my bed. Gravel in the words that never get said. Gravel sermon, gravel truth. Nobody's saving nobody's youth. I've been preaching to the dirt and the stone. Gravel sermon, dead and gone alone. To the union hall, said the Lord would intervene, but the Lord don't cross the company line, and he never has, if you know what I mean. We struck for 17 cold days in March. The scabs came by truck. The preacher prayed for both sides equally, which means he prayed for the ones with luck. Gravel sermon, gravel word, gospel of the working man unheard. Gravel in my lungs and gravel in my bed. Gravel in the words that never get said. Gravel sermon, gravel truth. Nobody's saving nobody's youth. I've been preaching to the dirt and the stone. Gravel sermon, dead and gone alone.
shore. He looked at me with his mother's eyes and didn't say a word. Maybe silence is the one true sermon. Maybe silence is what God has heard.
With its beak, I knew by the old signs my grandmother taught it had something terrible to speak. I opened the sash and I offered my hand. It stepped on my wrist without fear. It looked in my eye with its mirror black eye and said what I dreaded to hear. Raven testament, raven word, darkest message ever spoken and heard. 3 knocks for the dying, 1 knock for the dead, 1 knock for the truth you've been running from instead. Raven testament on my wrist, nothing that loves you can ever be missed. Raven, fly back to the place that you came. Raven, take me along all the same. All the same. My grandmother came from a long line of women who read what the ravens brought. She said every family has a blackbird who carries the things that can't be taught. She showed me the marks on the old kitchen door frame, notched for every message received. 300 years of bad news in the morning, and still the family believed. Raven testament, raven word, darkest message ever spoken and heard. 3 knocks for the dying, 1 knock for the dead, 1 knock for the truth you've been running from instead. Raven testament on my wrist, nothing that loves you can ever be missed. Raven, fly back to the place that you came. Raven, take me along all the same, all the same. Is gone now, but left 1 black feather balanced on my windowsill. I haven't moved it for 7 long months, and I doubt that I ever will. Some messages you carry in your hand, some you carry in your chest. The raven only tells you what you know and leaves the knowing to the rest. mother's dress on the wedding day, a dress the color of old snow. The groom stood waiting at the altar rails with a smile that the guests didn't know. It was the smile of a man who owns a thing, not the smile of a man in love. She walked the aisle and she knew the difference, and she knew what it would come to show. Cindervow bride, cindervow flame, burning is the end of every name. She took the ring and she made the vow, but she planned the ending from the now. Cindervow bride, cindervow ash, love that owns you has to burn to ash. She smiled through the whole ceremony long. Cindervow bride, no one heard her song. They say the fire started in the parlor around about 2:30. The groom was found against the garden wall in his boots without a shoe. She was gone before the rooster crowed, her mother's dress on the garden gate. The sheriff said he'd never seen such a thing, but he didn't search too late. Cindervow bride, cindervow flame, burning is the end of every name. She took the ring and she made the vow, but she planned the ending from the now. Cindervow bride, cindervow ash, love that owns you has to burn to ash. She smiled through the whole ceremony long. Cindervow bride, no one heard her song. Have passed and the house is gone, just a scar where the foundation stands. They say she's seen in town some market days, an old woman with calloused hands. She never married again and never spoke of the husband or the dress. She tends a garden and she hums a tune that the neighbors can't quite guess.
There's a crossing out on the old saltpine road where the two black highways meet. The locals leave their offerings in the mud at the crossroads at the feet
of a wooden post with no name carved in it, in a rusted weather vane.
I've driven past it 40 years and always felt the cold before the rain.
Saltpine crossing, saltpine night, saltpine is where you give up the fight.
Leave your sorrow at the wooden post, leave an offering for the one you love most.
Saltpine crossing, saltpine wind,
saltpine is where the road bends in,
where you turn around to keep on through.
Saltpine Saltpine crossing is waiting for you. A woman left her wedding ring one March, pressed into the black mud deep.
A man left both his work boots there in May, said he had no more use for feet.
A child left the drawing folded small of a family standing whole.
I saw it once before the rain took it. Something about it took my soul.
Saltpine crossing, saltpine night. Saltpine is where you give up the fight. Leave your sorrow at the wooden post, leave an offering for the one you love most. Saltpine crossing, saltpine wind. Saltpine is where the road bends in,
Where you turn around or keep on through.
Saltpine crossing is waiting for you. Last autumn I drove out to the saltpine road with something in my coat.
I won't tell what I left at the wooden post. I won't write down what I wrote.
I drove home with both hands steady on the wheel, and the radio on low. Something lifted off my chest out there,
Something I was ready to let go. The willow by the creek was where we carved our names into the bark. I go there every summer still to check if the names survive the dark. The bark has grown around the letters now, the way skin grows around a scar. The tree absorbed what we put into it and made it part of what they are. Willowscar memory, willowscar name. The tree keeps growing all the same. Willowscar morning, willowscar night. Names inside the wood and out of sight. I put my hand on the bark and I feel everything that time can't fully heal. Willowscar memory carved in deep. Willowscar is the name I keep. You've been gone 11 years this August. I keep the counting without thinking now. Grief becomes arithmetic eventually. The when and where and how. The willow doesn't know you're gone from here. The willow doesn't track the years. It just grows around the scar and keeps on going the way a river clears. Willowscar memory, willowscar name. The tree keeps growing all the same. Willowscar morning, willowscar night. Names inside the wood and out of sight. I put my hand on the bark and I feel everything that time can't fully heal. Willowscar memory carved in deep. Willowscar is the name I keep. My daughter found the willow last September. She put her hand where I always put mine. She didn't ask me whose name was inside. She just stood there a long time. Some things a child knows without the asking. Some griefs they inherit whole. I watched her hand on the bark and I understood. The willow holds our whole family soul.
I dug a hole behind the churchyard wall where the preacher never looks. I buried every promise that I made, every lie inside my books. The soil took my name without a word. The worms don't ask you why. A man can disappear into the ground just as easy as he'll die. Hollow graves, hollow ground. Hollow is the only thing I found. God don't answer out here in the dark, just a silence where there used to be a heart. Hollow grace, hollow road. I've been carrying a man I don't know, walking through this life like borrowed time. Hollow grace was never mine. My mother kept a photo on the wall of a man I used to be. She dusted off on Sunday after church, like she still believed in me. I called her once in October rain. She didn't pick the phone. Some people keep the dead alive, and some just keep alone. Hollow grace, hollow ground, hollow is the only thing I found. God don't answer out here in the dark, just the silence where there used to be a heart. Hollow grace, hollow road, I've been carrying a man I don't know, walking through this life like borrowed time. Hollow grace was never mine. The winter came and took the last old oak that stood beside the fence. I didn't mourn it long, I recognized the way that dying went. Now I sit out on the rotten porch and watch the field go gray, wondering if the hole I've dug back there is wide enough someday. My brother and I used to split the riftwood out behind my grandfather's barn. He'd set the log and I'd swing them all down. We worked like two halves of one arm. We didn't talk much during the splitting, just the thunk of iron and wood. Two men doing the thing that needed doing, the way that brothers should. Riftwood song, riftwood split, every piece of wood that isn't it. The grain goes one way and the moth finds it, two halves of what the whole ones fit. Riftwood song, riftwood cold, stacked up high before the winter cold. Split the sorrow down the middle now. Riftwood song is all we know how. He's been gone 8 years from any address I can reach him at or find. We split along a line I didn't see coming, some grief runs along the family line.
He took the right and I took the left, the way the riftwood does, and neither half remembers being whole or remembers what the whole wood was. A riftwood song, riftwood split, every piece of wood that isn't it. The grain goes one way and the moth finds it, two halves of what the whole once fit. Riftwood song, riftwood cold, stacked up high before the winter cold split the sorrow down the middle now. Riftwood song is all we know how. I still split wood behind the barn each autumn. I do it along with the old maw. I set the log and swing and split it clean, and I don't feel nothing at all, except the one long second in between the setting and the swing, when I forget he's gone and almost turn to hand him the other thing.
The river came up in the night last spring, took everything up to the sill. It left behind a coat of silver mud and a silence deep and still. My daughter played beside that river bank from the day that she could walk. Now the river plays her music back to me on the reeds when the night birds talk. Siltwater, siltwater, carry her name down to the sea where all rivers came. Siltwater, hold what I couldn't hold. Siltwater, keep her from the cold. Siltwater, siltwater, sing to me the lullaby she used to ask of me. I stand at the bank and I'll call to the deep. Siltwater, give her back her sleep. The fishermen say that on Midsummer's Eve a girl walks out on a stone. Her dress is the color of river clay, and she never walks alone. They say she leads the young ones in who follow her glowing light. I know my daughter's face in any dark, I know her voice any night. Siltwater, siltwater, carry her name down to the sea where all rivers came. Siltwater, hold what I couldn't hold. Siltwater, keep her from the cold. Siltwater, siltwater, sing to me the lullaby she used to ask of me. I'll stand at the bank and I'll call to the deep. Siltwater, give her back her sleep. After 40 years, I know its moods like my own blood. I know it takes without apology and gives back only mud. But every night I set a lantern out upon the old stone wall, just in case my daughter finds her way and needs a light.